If you're thinking of moving to Katy, Texas, then today's video is for you. This is going to be the most comprehensive guide to Katy that you're going to find online. I'm going to take you through Katy on a map, show you where all the schools are, show you where the best neighborhoods are, show you where good restaurants are, talk about your commute. You're going to learn everything that there is to know about Katy, so let's get right into it. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about Katy, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click the bell so that you can be notified about the real estate market in Katy and the greater Houston area. My name is Nick, and me and my team at the Bridge Group get calls from people just like you looking to make Katy and the greater Houston area their home, and we love it. So whether you're looking to move in just a few days or a few months, reach out, give us a call, text, or email, or even schedule a Zoom consultation with me, which is my favorite thing to do, and we'd be happy to help you make a smooth move to the Houston area. Let's get into the map. All right, so I've got Google Maps pulled up right here, and let's take a look first at where Katy is located in relation to Houston. So you can see Houston is right here, and Katy is gonna be a straight shot down I-10. You'll see this little red area outline. That is Katy on the map. So in terms of distance or how long it might take for you to commute, if you've got a job that puts you right smack dab in the middle of downtown, you're probably looking at a drive time of about 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Even though I-10 is one of the largest highways in terms of the amount of lanes that are like in the United States, it gets super backed up because you have a ton of people living in Katy. The last census that was taken, I believe it was in 2020, puts the Katy population in the greater Katy area at around 340,000 people. So that means there are a lot of people just like you that are commuting in from Katy, which is one of the top suburbs in the greater Houston area, trying to drive into downtown all at the same time in rush hour. So you can avoid some of that traffic by leaving a little bit earlier or going in a little bit late. But if you're going during that peak hour, that peak time, then you're probably looking at around 45 minutes to an hour and a half to get into downtown. If you don't need to go that far in and you're going to be maybe around the Galleria area, then again, you're probably looking at about an hour. If you're going to be commuting to the energy corridor, which would for us would be right off of Highway 6, which kind of cuts north and south across I-10, then the energy corridor, that's probably going to take you about 35 minutes. So again, it just kind of depends on where you're going to be commuting to. Now, in terms of where the airport is and commute to the airport, you have two airport options that most people are going to be using in the Houston area. You have right up here off of 45, you have the George Bush Airport. That's the international airport. That's the really, really big one. We are a United hub, so you're going to have tons of United flights going internationally from George Bush International. Now, the other airport that we have is going to be south. That's going to be Hobby Airport. And so in terms of commute to either one of those, you are looking at about that same kind of distance like it would be to get into downtown Houston to get to either one of those. So you're probably going to be cutting through I-10 and then maybe taking Beltway 8 up to 45 and then taking that to get to George Bush. Or if you're going down to Hobby, then again, you're probably going to be taking I-10 in, then you're going to be taking the Beltway down south and looping around, or you might be going in and taking 610 and looping around and then coming down to the airport that way. So you got a couple ways, but what you'll notice is that the best way to get around Katy and Houston and the greater area is to use our interconnected highway system that is, I feel like it's one of the best in terms of always having access to major highways and major toll roads, basically no matter where you live in the greater Houston area. So if you want to think about it like a wheel, you've got different loops and you've got spokes, right? So you have I-10, which is the major highway that cuts west to east, and that'll get you all the way to the East Coast, all the way to the West Coast. Super big highway, right? Then you have 45 that's going to take you through the Woodlands. If you're trying to get to Dallas, for example, you might use 45, but 45 kind of cuts north and south through Houston and then makes its way down towards Galveston, Bayou Vista, Tiki Island. So it is north and south, and then it kind of goes a little bit to the east there at the bottom. And then what you'll find is that you've got multiple loops that are going to allow you to get to different parts of Houston. So again, if you're coming from the Katy area, one of your major loops is going to be the outer loop, which we would call 99. Okay, this is also called the Grand Parkway. It doesn't actually make a full loop. You can see as I'm drawing here around on the map, it actually kind of doesn't connect across the bottom, but this is going to allow you to get to the north side of Houston. So that's going to get you to Cypress and Tomball and the Woodlands and Spring and New Caney and Porter, all the way over to like Dayton and Mont Belvieu. But you'll notice that it's going to be the quickest way that's going to get you up north rather than kind of cutting in and going up. Then you're going to find that there is a second loop that you'll use a lot when coming from Katy, and that is Beltway 8. So Beltway 8 kind of makes that middle loop around Houston. This is also called Sam Houston, or Beltway 8 again. It is a toll road. So 99 is a toll road as you use the northern loop. So if you are looping around north on 99, then you are going to pay a toll. If you are taking 99 south, right here in the Cinco Ranch area, so between I-10 and West Park, this is no toll. So you will not have a toll if you are using this part of 99. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have a commute that is actually taking you up north, then you want to be conscious of the fact that you're going to be using a toll the entire time. And same thing with I-10. Something I didn't mention in the beginning, you're going to be using I-10 to get into downtown or to get into the Galleria area or Highway 6, which would be like Energy Corridor. You can take the regular highway and drive with everybody else, or there are toll lanes that start right around Eldridge and Highway 6. You will actually see that there's an entrance to get on a toll, and there are a couple dedicated toll lanes that will actually take you all the way through into downtown. There's also HOV lanes. So for what that means, if you don't have those where you are, is high occupancy vehicle. This just basically means if you're carpooling and you have at least one other person in your vehicle, then you can, for free, utilize that dedicated toll lane. Now, keep in mind that the toll lanes and the HOV lanes operate at different hours. So typically, when you are, let's say, for example, operating during kind of that rush hour, then that HOV lane is going to be available, but it might not be available at different times of the day. Sometimes it's just tolls, sometimes it's just HOV. So you do want to make sure that you clarify that before you use it. We have easy tags here, so you actually buy them, they stick on the inside of your windshield, and that will actually allow you to drive through that toll lane without having to stop and throw change into a system or anything like that. You can just cruise as far as you need to go, and then whenever you exit, that's it. And you're just charged for the different meters along the way, you're passing under them, and that is charging you for however long you're on the tollway. So with that being said, you can use the toll if you want. You can use HOV if you carpool with somebody else, or maybe you and another person are commuting to the same place, or you're trying to get somewhere and your spouse is with you as you're trying to get into town to maybe go to the Galleria. Hop on that HOV lane and you can get outside of the traffic. And a lot of times I find that during peak time, the HOV lane or toll lane can usually shave off about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes from your commute. Obviously, it can get backed up just as much as I-10 can, but it's something to consider. If you are commuting a lot, then you can utilize that toll lane or the HOV lane. And so when we're looking at 99, again, a lot of that is going to be tolls. When you're taking Beltway 8, a lot of that is going to be, a toll road. And then you have the innermost loop, which here we call anybody that lives inside of 610, which is the innermost loop. When we say we live in the loop. So that's actually going to comprise not only downtown, but some of the neighborhoods around it. And so that is your innermost loop, which is going to allow you to get to things like Galena Park and being able to get down to the Bel Air area. 610 is great for those who live in the loop because you can hop on 610 and hop off. It's kind of a smaller loop. It was the original one, and then they've since expanded to different loops. You can see that the highway system is pretty extensive, and that's just the major ones. You've got tons that cut in different directions. 69 is another pretty major highway now that cuts all the way down and actually cuts over. So it kind of does this northwest, northeast, or southwest, northeast kind of thing too. So 59 also becomes 69. It actually cuts over. I drew that wrong. So it actually cuts down here, and then you'll notice it actually kind of cuts over this way and then down, right? So that's 59 is going to get you to things like Sugarland and Greatwood and Missouri City and Meadows Place, and it's going to get you up north towards Splendora and back to New Caney and Porter and Humble, Atascocita, like I mentioned earlier. Then you have 249, which is going to cut here from Tomball. It's going to pass through Louetta, and it's going to make its way down in here, right? And then you've got 290. 290 is going to be this diagonal one here that cuts through Jersey Village and Cypress, and it's going to take you out to Hockley and Hempstead, out towards Brenham. You can also use that to get to Austin. And then you've got Highway 90, which actually Highway 90 exists over here in Katy too. but Highway 90 basically becomes I-10 and then becomes 90 again as it cuts through Crosby out to Dayton, Liberty, and those out there. And then you have 288, which is going to cut you south. That's going to take you down towards Fresno, Iowa Colony, Manville, Rocheron. And then you have 35, which cuts down through Pearland and Alvin and Liverpool. So we have this huge interconnected city because of all of these great highways. Now, again, there's a lot of traffic because of that. And I would say that's maybe one of the main cons of living in Katy is the distance that it's going to take you to get into town. But on the flip side, you do have a lot of different highways and ways that you can get into town, ways that you can get to the north side, to the south side. So you have a lot of highways, but a lot of times there's a lot of traffic. You're not going to really be taking a lot of small streets to get places. You are basically always having to get onto a highway or to a toll road to get pretty much anywhere except for inside of the neighborhood that you live in. So that's definitely something that if you don't like getting on the highway all the time, or you don't like taking tolls all the time, that's kind of part of living in Katy just because of its location and distance. Now, let's hop in here and explore Katy a little bit. So Katy, again, like I said, is right here on the map. Now, a couple things to notice about Katy that are not always clear. If you Google Katy, it'll make it seem like it's this small town where there's not a lot of people. Census data will say that like 20 or 30,000 people live in Katy, which might be big compared to where you're from. Here, that would be small, but everything's bigger in Texas, right? The reason is because you have the city of Katy, and then you have the greater greater Katy area, and that comprises a lot more space there. So there's actually 3 different counties that intersect within Katy. So you have Waller County, you have Harris County, and you have Fort Bend County. All 3 of those intersect within Katy, and that's why you can have a Katy address, but not necessarily be in Katy, the city. And you can also be zoned to Katy ISD schools, ISD meaning Independent School District. You can be zoned to Katy ISD schools, but actually have a different address, a Houston address, for example, because maybe you're in Harris County, but you're still zoned to Katy ISD schools. You could be in Lamar ISD schools, but have a Katy address. Lamar ISD would be mainly in areas like Fulshear, right? So that's like Waller County. So that's where you're going to see a little bit of discrepancy there, I guess, if you look up statistics on Katy. Is they're going to make it seem like Katy is this really small area, and the original city of Katy, kind of being in this area here, was very small. It really had a boom in the 60s and 70s when I-10 made its way all the way through and provided a major highway that allowed people from Katy to be able to get into town. And so since then, it has expanded greatly, and now I would actually say there are kind of 3 different areas or sections of Katy, if you want to call it that. So you have the city of Katy right here, and then you have what we would say is like North Katy, that's going to comprise this area up here up to around 529. That's where you're going to find new construction opportunities, tons of them, and one of your major master plan communities that a lot of people talk about, which is Elyson. Elyson is a master plan community built by Newland Communities, and what that means is that Newland, as a developer, bought acres of land out in that area, and then they came up with a plan of 10-15-year development plan for a neighborhood that is called a master planned development, master planned neighborhood. And so this means that they planned out amenities and schools, and they negotiated for builders to come in. They basically buy all this land, divide it into a bunch of different lots at different sizes, and then sell those lots to home builders. And those home builders then have different sections at different price points and different sizes where they can sell their product. But it's all controlled in the sense that there are certain standards for the neighborhood. There's an HOA, and they've already kind of built and thought through all of this. So these are going to be much larger than maybe an individual builder who builds a neighborhood. Those might have a few hundred homes in them, where you'll have something like Elyson, or the big one that everybody knows about, which is Cinco Ranch, that might have thousands and thousands of people that live there. Elyson is going to be your big one on that north side of Katy. You also have a new one that's being developed recently, which is going to be Sunterra. So if you're looking for new construction opportunities that are a little bit more affordable, you're going to find a lot more options in Sunterra for that because of the types of builders that are going to be there. The price point in Elyson is going to be a little bit higher, so you're going to have a little bit higher end builders there, but there are options all across the board. Whether your price point is in the 300s up to $1 million plus, there are plenty of new construction opportunities in Katy. They're just going to be on this north side of Katy. The second section of Katy that I would say, other than Old Katy, which we showed you in the beginning, is going to be this south side of Katy. So if we look here at the map, the south side of Katy, so what I was showing you earlier, this north side is up here where Elyson is. You have the original Katy, which is right here in the middle. And then you have South Katy, which is going to kind of comprise everything south of I-10 over to Firethorne, using 1463 as kind of that barrier, and then stopping at West Park Tollway. Basically all of this is South Katy. Now, this is what really put Katy on the map in the 90s with the development of Cinco Ranch. So Cinco Ranch is a master plan community, again, kind of like we talked about with Elyson, but this was the original one that was developed by Newland. And actually, Cinco Ranch used to be a ranch, Cinco meaning 5. It was a ranch with multiple acres that was owned by different families. And so they sold that acreage to a developer, and then that developer eventually got bought out, and then Newland took over, and then they turned Cinco Ranch into what it is today. So Cinco Ranch itself is almost like its own little city. The closest comparison I can make to that is like the Woodlands. The Woodlands is very similar to Katy in that regards. And so Cinco Ranch is going to be that big neighborhood that a lot of people know about. There is no new development in Cinco. It's done. So anything that you buy in Cinco Ranch is going to be a resale home. Now, there were new homes in Northwest Cinco, a section of it that were built up into, like, I believe 2018. But most of your homes in Cinco Ranch are going to be 1990s and early 2000s and kind of in between that. So you're going to have a lot of 90s, 2005, 2008, 2010, and then it kind of stops at around that 2018, 2019 mark, and that's kind of it. There's really no new development there. So if you're buying something in Cinco Ranch, remember, we've got that Highway 99 that I talked about that cuts right through the center of Cinco Ranch, which means easy access basically from whether you're on the west side or the east side of Cinco. There's access to Highway 99. One of my favorite amenities that Katy has to offer that a lot of people love taking advantage of is La Centerra. So La Centerra right here is a shopping destination. There are tons of restaurants and stores. Look, you've got your Trader Joe's, you've got your Alamo Draft House, you've got a Target, you have a Home Goods, and of course you've got all of your fast food stuff. You've got a Chick-fil-A, you've got Whataburger, which, hey, look, if we're talking about whether In-N-Out in California is good or whether Whataburger is the best, I'm going to have to go with Whataburger. My wife would strongly disagree with me. She loves In-N-Out for some crazy reason. Whataburger is going to be our mainstay here locally in the Houston and Texas area. And so you've got one of those there, right? You've got a Chili's, you have a kolache factory, there's dental offices. And one thing that you'll notice as we're zoomed in here on the map, you see all this blue, these are all little lakes. So some of these are going to be man-made lakes. You've got playgrounds, you've got Torchlight Terrace Park, you have a Lifetime Fitness. There is a ton of stuff in this area. And one thing that's really great about Cinco Ranch is because the way that they came up with the development is Cinco Ranch High School is actually directly across the street from La Centerra. And so that makes it really cool because your kids are going here right across the street to Cinco Ranch High School, which is a top-rated school in Katy ISD, which, by the way, Katy ISD is actually the #1 school district in Houston area, according to niche.com, with an overall niche.com rating of A+. People love moving to Katy. They love the Katy ISD schools. And whether you have a Katy address or not, you can still be zoned to Katy ISD, even if you live in different counties, and that's a really cool thing about it. Some facts about Katy ISD as we're getting onto this topic. It has the number 15 out of 964 for best school districts for athletes. It is the best school district in Texas, number 17. And out of the most diverse school districts in Texas, it ranks number 21 out of over 1,000 school districts. So Katy ISD, if we pull that up on a map and show you where all the schools are, you can see that it is basically all A-rated schools. Not many school districts can claim that. You have very few schools within Katy ISD that are not A-rated or top-rated schools. Now, Katy ISD has 44 elementary schools, with some of the top ones being Campbell Elementary, Griffin Elementary, Kilpatrick Elementary, Schaefer Elementary, and Alexander Elementary. Katy ISD also has 18 middle schools, with the top ones being Adams Junior High, McMeans Junior High, Beck Junior High, Seven Lakes Junior High, and Tays Junior High. Katy ISD has 10 high schools, with the top ones being Seven Lakes High School, Tompkins High School, Cinco Ranch High School, Taylor High School, and Katy High School. Katy ISD has an average graduation rate of 94%, with the average SAT score being a 1250 and the average ACT score being a 29. The student to teacher ratio is a 16:1, with the national being a 17:1. There are also plenty of opportunities for your kids to play sports, with Katy ISD offering baseball, basketball, cross country, football, golf, lacrosse, soccer, swimming, tennis, track and field, wrestling, and softball. So we have talked about Cinco Ranch and Elyson and Sunterra as being top neighborhoods for you to look at when moving to Katy. Let's talk about a few more of my favorite neighborhoods. One that I really love is Cane Island. Cane Island is actually here on the northern part of Katy, right near Old Katy. And it was actually one of the last places that you could get a Katy address for the city of Katy. But Cane Island is a beautiful community with a recreation center. You have a community center. There are tons of lakes and parks and trails, and the builders that are in Cane Island are just amazing. Because of its location to Katy, you're actually just on the street from Mary Jo Peckham Park, which was featured in my Katy vlog tour, and Legacy Stadium. This is a massive stadium that was built just a few years ago for Katy ISD, and it is one of the largest stadiums in the whole state of Texas. It took over $72 million to build this thing. It is truly gigantic, and Katy loves its football, and Katy High School is actually not too far away from that. And so that's actually where I went to school, was Katy High School. You also have the Merrill Center, which is used for basketball. So there are no shortage of high school sports and no shortage of stadiums for those high school sports, because a lot of parents want their kids to go to Katy schools because of the sports and the academics. Those are the two really big draws. So again, Katy High School being just down the road. So beautiful community. You've got homes in the 500s and up with exclusive sections that are gated, $1 million plus homes there, home sites with huge lots, and you're just down the street from Katy High School and from all the local Katy amenities. Now again, if you're in this Old Katy area, and again, Katy High School being one of the top schools there, you are also just down the street from Katy Mills, which is the outlet mall. Now this was actually bought by Simon a few years ago, but it's huge. It's got a ton of shops. It's got a water park called Typhoon Texas. It has a rainforest cafe. They do light shows. There's a trampoline park. There's a new thing called Slick City, which is like a big slide, indoor slide park. So tons of fun things to do right there. But anything that's not in Old Katy, you are about a 15 to 20 minute drive from Sunterra, which is the other main shopping area. So you would literally cut on 90 or 10 down to 99, and that would take you right to Sunterra, where we talked about earlier. So you got kind of a shopping hub here, and then another one about 15 to 20 minutes away. Now, another great neighborhood that you've probably heard of is Seven Meadows. You're going to find Seven Meadows here on the south side of Katy. And so if we pull up Seven Meadows here on the map, I'll show you exactly where it is. So right here in this southwest corner here, right off of 99, is where you're going to find Seven Meadows. And homes in Seven Meadows are going to be zoned to Seven Lakes High School, which is one of the top high schools in Katy ISD. So Avalon at Seven Meadows is going to be a pretty exclusive community here with large home sites. You also have access to the Meadowbrook Golf Club and tennis courts, and Seven Lakes Junior High School being right here. You have Bonnie Holland, which is a top elementary school, and you have Whole Foods just down the street with, again, you've got like a Carrabba's in your Home Depot. And what you're going to find about most of these communities in Katy is that a lot of them were built with the necessary stores and amenities nearby, or they were developed in conjunction with having those things nearby. So basically, if you live near any of these master plan communities or these large developments, basically anything that you need is usually going to be within 5 to 10 minutes of your house, if not a 15 to 20 minute drive, and you can basically get anywhere in Katy. And that's a great thing about it. And I would say is one of the big pros of Katy is that you basically have everything that you need. You don't really have to go into Houston to get to anything. It is very much self-sustained. Now, one thing that you won't really find in Katy are going to be new restaurants that pop up all the time in Houston that are kind of one-offs, and they're usually like well-known chefs. They're usually very crazy or exotic or different flavors or from different places. Houston is certainly one of the most diverse in terms of food and culture of any city in the United States. I would say Katy is going to be a little bit more of your traditional fare. You're going to find a lot more of your chain restaurants there. There's going to be a ton of them, and they're going to be all over the place, and it's going to be easy for you to access. But if you're really kind of wanting to get into those like newest, latest, greatest restaurants and new trendy places and new food, a lot of that you are going to drive into town for. But if you don't really care about that, you have everything you need. You do not have to commute into Houston to get to anything really. You've got your mall, you've got your shopping, you've got your restaurants, you have access to essentially everything that you need. Now, another community that might be on your list is Falcon Point. This is actually just north of the Cinco Ranch area. So Cinco Ranch kind of being right in here. Just north of that is Falcon Point and Falcon Ranch. They aren't actually in Cinco, but they are directly connected in a lot of ways with their roads. So it's actually very confusing sometimes because you feel like you're in Cinco Ranch, but you're actually in Falcon Point or Falcon Ranch because the roads kind of go in between them. But again, you've got a golf course, you have tons of lakes, lots of opportunities for housing. You're going to find that homes in Falcon Ranch are going to be a little bit less expensive than homes in Cinco Ranch. That's just because Cinco Ranch has the name associated with it, and it obviously has the builders that were associated with it. But in terms of schooling and access, they are essentially the same. So if you want to save a little bit of money, you can live in Falcon Ranch and Falcon Point, and you're basically living in Cinco because it's all the same. Now, obviously, they don't share their amenities, so a lot of the things like the tennis courts and the pools and things like that that are for the HOA that's provided for Cinco Ranch, you won't have access to those, but you have a lot of very similar ones. And of course, all the parks and walking trails and things are open to everybody, so you can still get to those, and they're only a few minutes away from you. Now, one of my favorite communities is Firethorne, and it's going to be right here on the west side of Katy. So in terms of Cinco Ranch being down here on the southeast side, Firethorne is going to be about a 15-minute drive away. And Firethorne is another master plan development here that is not nearly as large as Cinco Ranch. I mean, Cinco Ranch encompasses tens of thousands of residents, but Firethorne is a great community with a lot of premier Texas builders. They have their own community center, their own playgrounds, their own lakes. They have their own clubhouse. And again, just like Cinco Ranch, you're going to see that elementary schools and things are built right in the inside of Firethorne. And of course, you've got your Kroger, and you've got your Great Clips, and you've got your restaurants very, very close by. Again, hiking, biking, walking trails all the way around. So Firethorne, I think, is also a great community that should be on your list. And of course, you've got shopping right here off of 1463. This is where you're going to find a lot of shopping. Is going to be these little kind of pocket shops. I wouldn't say that they're not all necessarily strip centers. I would say they're very nice, and you're going to have a lot of those right nearby all of these major master plan communities. So again, no shortage of access to amenities and stuff to do and places to shop at, and all of your grocery stores and everything are usually very close by to the neighborhoods. Now, we've talked about how great Katy is. Let's talk about housing. What can you actually get when living in Katy, Texas? Now, when looking at the statistics for sold properties in Katy, the average sales price is $438,000, with the average price per square foot being $169.93. The average days on market for a property in Katy range from 39 to 50 days. Now, what you'll see in terms of the historic price trend in Katy is that since 2005, it has basically doubled. So the average price for a home in Katy was $200,000 back in 2005, and now the average price in Katy is around $400,000. So we have seen a pretty consistent uptick in the value of homes for properties all across Katy, because it is a very desirable place to live. It really has only started coming down in the last couple years, but I mean, we would attribute that to the recent change in interest rates. But even then, you are still above that 400,000 mark for the last few years, regardless of COVID and regardless of interest rates. So that's really what caused that initial spike back in 2020, 2021, and 2022. And now we're just seeing it level off and become more normalized. But home values have definitely been increasing in Katy, and there's really no end in sight. So if you're looking at this as an investment opportunity, that you want to buy a home that's going to appreciate in value, you really don't have anything to worry about with Katy based on the historical data that we have. Let's go ahead and look at a few other communities that I think should certainly be on your radar when thinking of moving to Katy. Just to the east of Cinco Ranch, you have Kelliwood. And the reason that I really like Kelliwood is because the homes are beautiful, tall estate homes. I just love the look of them, beautiful mature trees. And it is actually right here next to George Bush Park, this huge, large green area that you see right next to us. This is George Bush Park. Now, the one con, I guess I would say, about living somewhere in this area is because this whole area here is a little bit lower lying and almost acts as a reservoir. And so during Hurricane Harvey, which happened back in 2017, a lot of the stuff that was right along the edge of this did receive some flooding. Now, a lot of these have been remodeled. They've gone through mold remediation and they've been completely redone and ripped down to the studs and rebuilt on the inside. So there's really nothing to worry about in terms of the condition now, but I know a lot of people are scared or afraid of that. I guess I would say that that might be one con to living in this Houston area is flooding, but I think it's a little bit overblown. A lot of what you're going to see online, a lot of what you'll see in the news are things that don't necessarily happen every single year. Basically, since Hurricane Harvey happened in 2017, we really haven't had any other major flood since then. So this is not a regular occurrence, and Hurricane Harvey was like a biblical proportion level flood. It's not certainly the normal. A lot of times when hurricanes roll through, Katy is so far from the coast that you really don't ever get very much flooding, if anything. A lot of times maybe just some of the roads might get flooded, but they're kind of meant to do that. They're built as floodways. Most of the time, houses don't flood, so it's really not something that I would worry about too much in the future. But I love these homes just because of where they are and because they're right near George Bush Park. There's tons of greenery and trees, and it's just a beautiful area. But just keep that in mind. A lot of those have been remediated and remodeled since they did flood in 2017. Now, a few other communities that I really love. This is kind of a cheating a little bit because it's really not Katy, but something I would consider is Cross Creek Ranch. Cross Creek Ranch is going to be right here to the southwest. It is a master plan community, and it is what I would say is basically Katy. It's right on the edge. It's technically part of the city of Fulshear, which actually exists down here, which is kind of like Katy in that it's a very small city with not very many people living actually in the city of Fulshear, but a lot of people live outside of it in these extraterritorial jurisdiction areas, these ETJs. And so Cross Creek being one of those, you have half of Cross Creek being zoned to Katy ISD, even though technically it is not in the city of Katy. The other half of it is zoned to Lamar ISD, which is also a great ISD and a top-rated one in the Houston area. So I love Cross Creek Ranch. If you're a little bit more of that kind of outdoorsy type of person, you really like biking and walking, and you like fishing. The way that they designed the community, I just think they did such a great job with kind of keeping the trees and the wildlife and the look of the plains and the area that this was built in. They kind of kept that and they didn't get rid of it. And so they kind of incorporated it within the design of the community. And so a lot of the roads and things are kind of winding and they have little hills and there's trees everywhere. So if you're looking for that kind of vibe that almost feels a little bit more like you're living in the country, but you're not, because you literally have, you have an HEB, which is our favorite grocery store here. You have an Aldi, you have a local table. I mean, you have churches. You're within minutes of anything that you could need, but it does feel like it's a little bit more country. And I've actually lived in Katy long enough to remember when there was nothing out here, and this felt like you were driving out into the middle of nowhere. And now it's basically part of Katy at this point. Katy is so large that you're really not driving out into the country like it used to feel like you were when it was being developed, way back when. So Cross Creek Ranch is my little bonus one because it's technically not in Katy, but some of it is zoned to Katy ISD, so I'm going to throw it in here as an honorable mention. I'll also give you another honorable mention that's actually technically in Brookshire, but it borders the northern part of Katy, and that's going to be Jordan Ranch. So Jordan Ranch is built by the same developer as Cross Creek Ranch. So same exact developer. They kept that same sort of outdoorsy feel to the neighborhood. And so again, Johnson Development, they build both of those neighborhoods, and they've just done such a good job at the design and the look and the feel of the neighborhoods. And so Jordan Ranch, Cross Creek Ranch, both built by the same developers, both have that kind of outdoorsy feel, with again some of Jordan Ranch being zoned to Katy ISD, and some of Cross Creek Ranch being zoned to Katy ISD. And again, you can get homes ranging in the 400s and up is typically what you're going to find in Jordan Ranch and Cross Creek Ranch. You're usually not going to find anything less expensive. I think another one that is pretty common that a lot of people like and look into is Tamarron. So Tamarron is going to be right here near Firethorne. So I showed you Firethorne earlier, right? So Firethorne is a really nice development, and then you have Cross Creek Ranch on the south side. Tamarron is kind of in the middle of both of them, and so Tamarron is actually a D.R. Horton community. Now, D.R. Horton is a more affordable builder. You're not going to really be finding really high-end luxury finishes. It's going to be a lot more kind of standard finishes, but they're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. And it's not truly a master plan community. It's kind of billed as one. I think a lot of their advertising kind of makes it sound like it is a master plan community. It's really not, because it's really just D.R. Horton that builds there. Whereas a true master plan community, you would see multiple builders at multiple price points. D.R. Horton is kind of the only builder in Tamarron, and you do still have amenities like playgrounds and community centers and walking trails and stuff like that, but just not to the extent of something like a Cross Creek Ranch, a Firethorne, or a Jordan Ranch. Now, in terms of older communities, if we go to this northern section of Katy, I actually really like pointing people, if you're looking for kind of more custom homes, or at least homes that they're old enough now that at this point they've been basically fully remodeled and they've completely redone the inside of them just because of their age, but they have still good bones and they're in great areas, zoned to great schools. I think this northern area here that encompasses neighborhoods like Williamsburg Parish, Colony, Settlement, you're gonna find really, really beautiful homes at good price points in those areas. They're gonna be built in the 70s for the most part, but again, you're gonna have fully remodeled homes in those areas for a little bit less expensive. And a lot of these are gonna have very mature trees. They're gonna have big front yards, large backyards. They're gonna have pools and stuff already in them because they've existed for a long time. So if that's something that you're looking for, this kind of north part of Katy is where you're gonna find those. And again, you're right off of 99, so easy access to things like a Kroger's, a Kelsey-Seybold, which would be like your hospital. You have your Chick-fil-A, you have your Walmart, all within just a few minutes of you. And you're also just a few minutes from the city of Katy. So you're gonna have things like your Mary Jo Peckham Park. You're gonna have things like Legacy Stadium and Rhodes Stadium are just a few minutes away when you live in this kind of northern old Katy area. All right, that wraps up a super long video about Katy, but hopefully an informative one. Hopefully you learned something about the Katy area that you didn't know before. If you're a Katy native, leave a comment down below. Is there something that I missed? Is there anything that you wish that I would have covered that you think would be useful for somebody trying to decide whether to make Katy their next home? Now, me and my team at the Bridge Group love consulting with people as they're trying to make their decision of where they want to move in the Houston area. So just remember, you can always shoot a text, give me a call, send an email, or schedule a Zoom consultation. I'd love to sit down with you and your family and talk about what is most important to you and whether Katy might be the right place for you and your family. As always, thank you for watching to the end of the video, and we'll see you guys on the next one.